the music. Welcome and good evening to all of our friends. Here we are at 10 p.m. almost on a Tuesday night. We have a lot of things to cover. Okay, Drake. Now, I know that you watched the replay of the Sixers game, and I imagine you were very pissed off like I was while I watched it. Tell me how you felt, buddy.
I wasn't pissed off, and I'll tell you why. I wasn't pissed off. I'm actually this whole road stretch didn't piss me off that much. So the Sixers, as we know and we've talked about before, were undefeated with their starting five.
Mm-hmm.
They go into Portland, who owned them the first game without Dame and CJ. And then they lose to Portland with just Dame. And then they go into Phoenix with a team that I think's won something like 10 out of their last 12 games, just probably the hottest team in the West right now, fully healthy, playing really well. Devin Booker scores 36 points, has a great game. Chris Paul's Chris Paul, and they lose that game. They played 3 top 5 teams in the West, and these are teams – at the end of the day, that going through the East, they're not going to have to see unless one of them gets to the finals. So the Western Conference road trip loss, I'd like to see them win 1 or 2 of those games.
Sure.
I've seen them beat the Lakers. I see how they match up. But the road stuff against the West doesn't kill me. Now, there's such things as good losses, bud. There's some good losses. I'll tell you why.
Sam Hinkie, explain to me why it's a good thing to do bad.
So it's not a good thing to do bad, but to see for the first time in 5 years, Ben Simmons go to the rack no matter who was guarding him was refreshing. So I would have taken that loss by 20 points if Ben showed me that he wanted to be aggressive and score 40 points, because now do you think that if he gets 1 or 2 of those games under his belt, he's like, holy shit, this is one of the better defensive teams in the NBA. Rudy Gobert's won Defensive Player of the Year awards. I was head-to-head with Donovan Mitchell. They have the 6th Man of the Year, and I just dropped 42 on them. Doesn't that make you feel just a little bit better about their chances if A, one of them goes down with injury between Embiid and Simmons, and B, just being able to know that, hey, I can score on anybody in the league?
So this is an interesting turn of events. So I really didn't think we'd get here, but we might be on opposing sides we started at. So as you'll recall, I was vehemently against a Ben Simmons for James Harden trade. Vehemently against it. I thought it was too much. I thought James Harden was too old. I don't not feel any of the ways that I said I did, but this is a gigantic but. I look at what James Harden has figured out to assimilate into that team in Brooklyn, and he's doing a pretty fucking good job at it. I wonder how well he could assimilate with what's here. And then I also look at a guy like Ty Maxey, who 6 weeks ago I was also never would I ever give up the young guard. And I'm like, man, if I could have squeezed out PJ Tucker, I might have given him up just to get a stretch 4 in this race. So it's interesting. I take the same positive that you took. I think Ben Simmons' 42-point game is a very big, bright, shiny star in the sky.
It's huge.
In a dark now, the problem is, do we believe that this is a Ben Simmons that we can see in any type of consistent platform? And I don't know. I said to you on the phone when you called me, Ben doesn't have 42 tonight if Joe plays, but Joe would have had 35 tonight. Ben would have probably had close to a triple-double with 22, 25 points, and they would have won that game last night if Joel Embiid played. So can Ben feel as empowered, as strong, as unstoppable if his stat line is 25, 12, and 9 rather than 42, 13, and 6? Do you know what I'm saying? Can he have a different impact and still be as aggressive? And I think that's what we've yet to see with him. When Joe's not on the floor, he's gone off a couple times before. Not quite like this, but I question, will I see it again this season?
Yeah, and obviously one of the big things that the Sixers were doing, and this is another like hats off to Doc a little bit, because Doc's whole plan was to try to get either someone like Joe Ingles or someone like Rudy Gobert on Ben Simmons. He was trying to get matchups with Rudy, and Rudy's realistically just too slow. He's great in the paint, but that's a matchup for Embiid, not a matchup for Ben Simmons. Simmons is just too quick, too fast. He's drawing him out of the paint. You would think other people would start to step up and score. Obviously, we know that Ben Simmons wasn't the reason they lost that game. Tobias Harris wasn't the reason they lost that game.
Now, what did he have? 36?
35 or 36. Yeah, he had and it was a quiet 36. It was kind of weird, right? Like Ben was going, he was getting fouled. The game was slow too because everybody kept getting to the free throw line. There's a problem with the Sixers perimeter defenders outside of Ben and Matisse.
Yeah, Matisse is good, but Matisse still, if you don't give me more than 4.5 points a night, you don't contribute enough to me.
He played 20 minutes. He had 5 points. Curry had somewhere around 10. And by the way, Curry had somewhere around 10, but he couldn't fucking guard anybody. And he hasn't shown really the ability to do that. Let's Utah was hot last night. Everybody was hitting.
Utah is the hottest team in the NBA right now, bro.
They shot 40% from three last night. They shot over 50% from the floor. They took double the amount of threes that the Sixers took and made more of them. So that was the difference in the game. They ended up, there was 2 at the end that's kind of like garbage time threes. They ended up really losing by about 7 or 8, which was still, they never had a chance to win that game really in the fourth quarter. They got within like 5 or 6, but never got closer than that. That's the best team in the West right now. And I have there's nothing that tells me that if Embiid's playing that basketball game, they don't beat that team. And again, they just overtook the Lakers for the best record in the league. I'm excited to see how they match up with these East teams once they have some time playing together. And I'll go back to your point about James Harden, because I think Kevin Durant's been up there as one of the more valuable players. But one of the things that we were talking about with James Harden when we first had the discussions about trading was like, oh, he seems like a cancer in the locker room. He's kind of throwing his teammates under the bus. He's just a scorer. He dribbles around. He's literally dropped his production off to taking about 14, 15 efficient shots per game when they need a bucket or need a drive or need a foul. And he's averaging 12 assists a game. He's playing a role there that I'm not surprised he can play. I just didn't think he'd be able to do it so quickly. So matching up in the East doesn't seem like a huge problem for the Sixers, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I don't see a team that can. I mean, you look at Kyrie and James Harden, and offensively, they're unmatched on most teams. But defensively, you have whatever you want every single time you go down the floor. So I mean, is it easier to assume Danny Green's going to go get on a hotter streak when he has a weaker defender? Probably. You know, Tobias Harris is going to get mismatched off Kevin Durant, and I mean, there's a lot of positivity on the offensive side of the Brooklyn Nets. It's weird, dude. They're the Rockets of the East. That's who they are, literally. They're Mike D'Antoni's Rockets of the East now. It's the same concept of sellout defense. I mean, listen, I know that you're on all these rumors of Drummond coming from Cleveland, and I want to get into that if you want. I don't think it'll happen. I just don't think that Cleveland is too far away to take a guy like, I mean, who do you have guard-wise? Like, let's say that they offered Dinwiddie or whatever it could be, even if it was a good guard, that's not getting you anywhere in Cleveland, and Cleveland's not in a win soon mode. So I don't think that trade works. But if you get a guy like Drummond, he's not a Joel Embiid, but Drummond is in the upper echelon of that second tier of big men, that's a problem to have with those two guards that can handle around a pick and roll like that.
Yeah, my thoughts were that Cleveland has a couple guards. They have Garland, Sexton, some guys that can play. In order to land Drummond, I think they'd still want to keep DeAndre Jordan because they don't have any other big. They traded away Jared Allen. So how do you get what you need back? Why are they trading Drummond? What are they looking for? Well, obviously they're trading Drummond because they want some draft capital.
Yeah, and they just don't have any picks left, bro.
Yeah, they have too many guards, so they're not extremely interested in guards. I mean, anybody in the NBA is going to take Joe Harris on their roster, but who do you pair with Joe Harris to make them pull the trigger on Andre Drummond that another team can't give you?
Right.
I don't, they're the front runner to get him, but I'm trying to figure out how it's going to work. On the other hand, and I want to know what you think about this, there's rumors that, the Lakers are the front runners to get Blake Griffin. Now, Blake Griffin's obviously not the same Blake Griffin that he was when he was with the Clippers.
He's a wholly different player.
He's developed a shot. He can shoot the three now. He gives you effort defensively. He knows how to bang inside, and all around, he's just a tough guard for any big in the league. So if the Lakers can land a Blake Griffin, and they're already the favorites, but we're talking about this because Anthony Davis is having Achilles issues, and Achilles issues for a 7-footer can go wrong like that. So they're looking for some insurance for that. Does Blake Griffin put this team over the top if Anthony Davis can't really make a full recovery throughout the season with that Achilles?
No, I don't think they're the best team in the West if Anthony Davis isn't playing. Blake Griffin's a nice piece, but it's kind of like talking about Kevin Love right now, right? Like Kevin Love to a team like the Sixers is a stretch four, is a much-needed punch of score like Bielitsa from the Kings, which were the Sixers being tied to quite a bit. That's in theory, it's a step that moves you over. But if you're subtracting Anthony Davis, other than Joel Embiid, I don't know a player in the league, maybe Giannis, that you can replace him with that's gonna keep you where you were. It's a significant step backward. If the reports are true that the Lakers are the front runners, I mean, we know that the Sixers have more capital than the Lakers do because of what the Lakers have done the last couple of years. They've really kind of built that roster by getting rid of a lot. I mean, Anthony Davis cost them a ton of their future. If I'm Daryl Morey and Blake Griffin's available, I'm absolutely finding a way to make that deal. I mean, if you bring Blake Griffin onto this team, you can get a guy that starts and plays 25, 28 minutes a game at the 4 and move Tobias Harris to your 3 and get Danny Green the fuck out of your starting lineup. And let Tobias Harris be that drive up ISO on offense. He'll play that post-attacking 4 that he plays right now, because Blake Griffin probably is just as good a three-point shooter as Tobias Harris is right now. I mean, Toby's not a great three-point shooter. So to have that threat of the stretch 4 that Griffin has now developed, but to also have the tenacity Blake Griffin brings, dude. I mean, you watched that game last night, bro. The only person that was giving 100% motor every second of that game was Ben Simmons, and it showed on the stat sheet. I mean, that is what happened. You didn't have Embiid to be there to be the other guy to rally around. And no matter what happens, bro, this is Joel Embiid's basketball team. So they have got to find a way to bring some more spark too, man. They just need something more exciting. And you got to get Danny Green the fuck out of the starting lineup. Danny Green was so effective for the Lakers last year because he was used 16 and a half, 17 minutes a game maximum at particular times to change momentum. He was asked to just literally basically dance from key to key and just catch a ball and shoot. And you're not using him in that role right now, and it's killing him.
Yeah, and we've talked about this too. Doc has definitely been an improvement on Brett Brown, but you have to, like, Frank Vogel's rotations, when I watched them in the playoffs, the guts that he had to sit LeBron when they were down 10, things like that, where he just knew his guys, knew his rotations, knew where he would get a spark. I think Doc's still trying to figure that out, and I think it hurts him because they've played, 20, 22 games, and they haven't really had their full crew together for more than 10 or 11, 12 games, something like that. Yep. So he's still figuring out those rotations, but it's been a great improvement. We'll see how the East shapes out. By the way, Utah, again, 12 straight home wins by 10-plus points. The last team to do that was the 95.
I got to interrupt you. And I have one thing to say about the Utah Jazz right now. It's one parallel. Everybody will remember it. It wasn't very long ago. And all I'm going to say is Pittsburgh Steelers. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you didn't pay attention to football this year, and that's okay. But the Utah Jazz are the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's not going to end pretty. It's going to be sad. Once all these teams get back healthy and the correctness shakes back into the league, Like, there's no world you're convincing me that Utah is a better team than Denver. It won't happen. I know that it looks like it by the record, but it's just not. This is not how it'll end, guys. Like, props to Utah. They won a lot of games early. It's just not going to end that well for them. That's all.
Yeah, I like that take because it reminds me kind of what the Nuggets and the Jazz kind of do year in, year out, where any given year they can finish as the 1 or 2 seed, and then the matchup in the playoffs somewhere along the line just doesn't really work out that bad for them. And I don't think they're going to like lose it towards the end of the regular season like Pittsburgh did, but I think once the playoffs come around, there's going to be a matchup that's just very unfavorable for them because your center at the end of the day.
They exist in the West, bro. I mean, Phoenix is a terrible matchup for them. Phoenix
is going to be a terrible matchup for a lot of teams.
Yeah, I think the only team that really can handle Phoenix is probably the Lakers if Anthony Davis is 100%. And they still don't match up well. They match up the best. They're just like the best of a bad case.
Now let's make up a hypothetical world where somehow the Clippers, because they lack a big, or the Celtics even, because they lack a big, can land an Andre Drummond. Does that change any of those two teams' chances?
So the Clippers, I think potentially, because I do believe that most of the West, especially those top 5, 6-ish teams, they're kind of pick'ems after the Lakers, right? Like if Phoenix won, you wouldn't be surprised. Like we're not talking about Houston or Oklahoma City, one of these basement level teams now. You're talking about 5 or 6 really good teams. So if it were the Clippers, yeah, I think the Clippers could have a chance. I really, unless it was Kemba Walker that went for the big, and you let Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown kind of finally blossom into their roles on this team, I don't think that Boston gets it together, man. They have so much raw talent, and Brad Stevens, who I think is a tremendous coach, just doesn't seem to know what to do with it, bro. Like I heard this bullshit about the games against Boston about how Tatum was out. Motherfucker, that's still Kemba Walker and Jaylen Brown. Like, I know Tatum was missing, but when Kemba's on the floor, Tatum is basically useless anyway. They weren't missing anything. And what are they doing? Like, Jason Tatum has the ability to become the next big guy. And it's like they sold out to Kemba Walker. And
you know what's going on? You know what's going on with them? It's the same situation that, like Kawhi Leonard, for instance, was in when he was with the Spurs. They have a coach that wants to move and share the basketball to a point that's almost detrimental to the stars that he has on his team. And I can understand wanting to play a version of team ball, have a couple guys in double figures, the other team not knowing who's going to shoot, who's going to drive, what's going on, pick and rolls, playing off the ball, coming around screens, et cetera, et cetera. But you have 3 guys on that team. It almost not quite at the level, obviously, the Nets do, but you have 3 guys on that team that any given moment can score the basketball.
Listen, you got to kind of something. Zach LaVine, who I believe is approaching that top level of elite talent in the NBA right now. I think the last couple of weeks he has really shown that motherfucker's getting after it, right? He's breaking into Bradley Beal territory, right? Like, he's getting into those top guys.
And his team's winning more games.
Jaylen Brown is a fucking superstar waiting to happen. Jaylen Brown has got an almost unblockable shot from the mid-range out to 3. Tremendous range, very good strength, great driving ability. And he's not a passer by any means, not a distributor, but he's not a bad kick guy, dude. But he doesn't kick often because he doesn't need to. The fucking guy drives on everybody and gets it every time. That dude is a breakout superstar waiting to happen. And Jason Tatum is already held in that type of category with Kemba Walker. If you were to bring a big in and keep those 3 guys there, if you let them just play, could you imagine the pick and roll, pick and pop schemes that they would run? That would be fucking incredible. Be like watching an all-star team.
Yeah, Blake Griffin honestly might even be a better fit there than he would on LA just because of his ability to shoot the mid-range. But I think just any big for any of those 2 teams would be a major step up. Ty Lue is actually getting more out of that team than Doc Rivers at this point than Doc Rivers did last year. But it seemed like maybe they have a little more continuity, and they have some guys that left that seem like they didn't want to be there. So we'll see how it works out.
This is the same issue that the Eagles are going through right now with pussy ass bitch baby Carson Wentz. Frank Reich treated him like a little princess. It was his little girl. It was his dainty little object, and you couldn't speak too loudly or too harshly at him. Carson Wentz is trying to use that crutch he was taught by Frank Reich to get back to Indianapolis right now. So it's the same kind of idea. When you've got that fucking soft type in you, bro, and this is, I got to tell you something, man. If you've got a first-round draft pick on the table from Chicago, I don't care what the rest is. Just go take it. Just go take it. Because I know that war room right now is arguing amongst themselves every single fucking day they sit down about Justin Fields and Jamar Chase. I know they are. Because the likelihood of the way that these boards are shaking out right now, it is probable that you have Justin Fields and Jamar Chase on the board at 6, or at least 5, which is not impossible to trade up to, especially if you get a couple second-round draft picks for Carson Wentz. It opens up everything. I know that that's what they're fighting about. So if you know that you're probably going to take a quarterback anyway because it might not even be Jalen Hurts, get the fuck rid of this guy, man. Send him on.
So I'm trying to. This is what's kind of been going on with the Wentz situation, because you have a worse offer on the table from the Colts. You seemingly have a better offer from the Bears, and I think it's the Bears are hesitant to pull the trigger on this trade because they want Wentz and they don't know if Wentz wants to be there, and that's the problem that's going on. So the reports are coming out, and I think it doesn't matter. If I'm the GM, I'm just pulling the trigger and taking what I get, and I'm wiping my hands with it. But Chicago is thinking that, okay, well, if Wentz doesn't want to be here, then he's either going to be the same way that he is in Philadelphia right now, or he's going to give us a couple shit years and we're not going to be able to get anything out of him. Now, I know Matt Nagy thinks that he can get the same thing out of him with John DeFilippo there, but the other reports coming out is, well, the reason Wentz doesn't want to go there is because in those film sessions, in those QB rooms, Frank Reich was good cop and John DeFilippo was bad cop. And with Wentz's ego and his pride, he doesn't want to go play for bad cop. And to be honest with you, if I'm Wentz, I wouldn't want to go there. But at the end of the day, if I'm the Eagles, I'm just like, well, it doesn't fucking matter. He's got 3 years left on his contract. Here you go. And I don't know why it's so hard to convince the Bears of that. But if I'm Carson, it's like a nightmare waiting to happen, because Chicago fans, trust me, are not much better than Philadelphia fans. And you're
listen,
still gonna...
Look, not for nothing. We have been in the middle of a snowpocalypse this winter. But nowhere is worse than Chicago in the wintertime. It's the fucking worst place on the planet in wintertime. It just is. Yeah. Nobody wants to play for Chicago. I heard this, bro, all over the radio today. Every time I was in my fucking car today, I heard somebody else say it. Oh, he just doesn't want to go there, so Chicago's hesitant. Motherfucker, you're acquiring a contract. And in that contract, it says the owner of said contract, i.e. now you, the Chicago Bears, this player must play for it. What are you worried about? Are you worried about him sitting out? Let him. You don't have to pay him then. His contract's void. You don't have to. There's no risk.
Do you have to release Nick Foles if you trade for Carson Wentz?
No, not the bad cop John DeFilippo. Absolutely not. John DeFilippo will use Nick Foles as a listen, if this is a fucking feelings are hurt and Carson's too nervous or a pansy ass to go to Chicago, it's because he knows that. It's because he knows that Nick Foles is not a part of the package. It's because he knows that John DeFilippo wants the same setup that he had that won it for him in 2017. What better way could you go if it's what you know? You know what I mean? So you've got Carson Wentz come back, recapture the magic, and God forbid you tear your fucking ACL against the LA Rams in week 13. We've got a backup. You know what I mean?
So here's the interesting part of all this. If you look at, so let's just go back to what Chicago's been dealing with for the last 3 years. They've had Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky's numbers over the last 3 years. Now, I know numbers play, especially in football, when you watch those games are fucking two completely different things. A little bit in basketball, very much in football. I mean, we've watched Dak Prescott shred fucking teams for a ton of yards every year.
You want to use numbers to justify some things, but when I use numbers to justify why Phillip Rivers is a Hall of Famer, you get upset. But yeah, we know numbers only tell you.
Yeah, your justifications usually wins, but we'll put that aside because Mitch Trubisky has really done nothing but actually put up almost Matt Ryan's numbers.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
I'm not, but you're missing my point. I'm going to get to it. He's put up almost Matt Ryan's numbers, and he's won more football games. So you have to think that Nagy and DiFilippo are going to be thinking in their head, they're like, holy shit, I've watched Mitch Trubisky play and he sucks. So if I can get fucking Carson Wentz, like we're gonna fucking win a Super Bowl, right? Like if I can get Mitch Trubisky to win 70% of his games, we're gonna win a fucking Super Bowl with Carson Wentz. I mean, they gotta be ecstatic to get him. I would be. I don't understand it. I don't know why it hasn't happened yet.
So I get you, and I think, dude, I think this is the same. I really believe Rivers is our Marino. Rich Galman, my man. That is the facts right there. Phillip Rivers is a fucking Hall of Famer. Now, let me ask you this question, Aaron. Is Dan Marino a Hall of Famer?
Come on.
No, answer it out loud with your words.
Of course he is.
Phillip Rivers is this generation's Dan Marino.
Not quite.
Oh, entirely, bro.
Not quite.
Oh, I
understand the comparison. I get the comparison.
But you want to argue with me that Donovan McNabb is a Hall of Famer?
Donovan went to 5 NFC Championship games and a Super Bowl.
Donovan had a top 5 defense every single year of his career. Donovan had a top 5. Donovan doesn't play defense, though. Donovan had a top 5 offensive line every single year of his career.
We do this every episode. Let's move on from this. We keep talking about this.
You think so dumb?
It's your take. I have takes. You have takes. Mine are always better. Mine are always better than yours. For instance, let's shift back to basketball.
Basketball and talk shit about Zach LaVine, who I've given you all the credit for.
You called me out 2 weeks ago. You said, you know what your worst take of the year was? I said, what was it, Justin? You said, what 2 names in the NBA did you bring up, or what 2 teams that you thought were going to make the playoffs? And I said, the Bulls and the Pelicans. You're like, they're nowhere close. Well, guess what? Bulls, game and a half back from the 8th spot. Pelicans, fucking creeping up right now. We'll see where it goes at the end of the season. Let's keep on Carson Wentz. If the so the Colts only gave
Donovan topic real fast. The Colts only gave what?
Start arguing about it. 2 second-round picks, 3rd or 4th round pick. The Eagles have tried to now package together Wentz and Ertz to see if they can bring a little bit more out of the Colts.
Sure.
If the Eagles move on from Ertz, and if you're the Colts, isn't that the best of both worlds? And don't you consider making those 2 second-round picks a first just to get guys that you know are comfortable with each other and to provide a level of comfort if you do want a Carson Wentz?
Well, I think the day is going to come where it does make sense, but right now they're waiting out the clock. They know that the Eagles are in the position of no power. There's no power or control over the situation. They're going to run it up till the last day if it takes it, and there's obviously other teams that will call in and talk. I mean, let's say the Patriots end up with Derek Carr and Las Vegas has no quarterback. That's a team that has an immediate need with ownership, management, and coaching that like Carson Wentz. But they know there's a deadline on this deal. So right now, no, if I'm the Colts, it doesn't incentivize me to make it anything more. If I was offering 2 2s and a 3, and they called me up and said, hey, we'll throw Zach Ertz in, all right, I'll give you a 6. Because even if I don't trade for Zach Ertz, I'm going to fucking sign him in 6 weeks. You know what I'm saying? It's not as big a chip as people want to make it. It is good incentive because it means you don't have to go through the free agency process of trying to outbid teams that have no tight ends. So it definitely does help out to pair him with the only quarterback he's been that good with. I mean, he led the league in receptions with Carson Wentz. So I think that it helps, but I don't think it's enough right now because the Eagles are drowning right now, dude. They're on their back. hoping that they don't fall all the way under, bro. That's what's happening right now. That's the position they painted themselves into.
So they're gonna have to pull the trigger before they have to give Carson Wentz a $10 million bonus. We all seem to know and recognize that. So whatever offer is on the table, they're gonna end up taking one or the other, whichever one's the best at the time. And they're probably trying to convince Wentz right now. They're gonna be like, "Hey, man, we're gonna send you to the Bears if the Colts don't make any other offers." So you got like a month to like mentally prepare for this, and you're getting shipped off if you want to leave.
Yeah, but our ownership here is fucking ass. I don't think so. Real quick to answer Rich. If Donovan McNabb makes it into the Hall of Fame, however many tries you're allowed, 10, 15, 25, whatever the fuck it is, however many tries,
not the first couple,
however many tries you're allowed, it will either be the last one he's eligible just because they kind of feel bad, or it'll happen after he dies and it'll be posthumous because you can't do it for him while he's alive because he doesn't deserve it. So even if he gets there, it's wrong. Back to the Carson to Chicago point. I don't believe Carson gives a fuck about helping this team. Carson is getting paid $128 million no matter what the fuck happens, no matter who pays it to him, no matter if the Eagles cut him tomorrow and deal with the dead money, if they find a way to manage $60+ million in dead money. If the Eagles just cut him, he's still guaranteed like $95 million of that 128. He's getting fucking paid.
And let's put this in perspective too. The Bears aren't really desperate to the production they were getting from Trubisky at the beginning of the year last year and still winning games. They know that they can go into the season with a Nick Foles or maybe sign a free agent. Dak's about to be available. If he doesn't sign the franchise, he's going to be available. If he doesn't want to play on it, something's going to happen. People are pushing Dallas to do a sign and trade for a franchise tag and have someone else work out a deal.
You know what would be fucking incredible? You know what would be incredible?
What I said to you 2 weeks ago that you called me drunk?
No. Not Philadelphia. You know what would be incredible? What would be incredible is if there was a sign and trade agreed where Dakota Prescott went to the Houston Texans and Deshaun Watson went to the Dallas Cowboys. And Dallas would obviously have to give up a couple of first-round draft picks along with Dakota because he's just not – I mean, after that injury, you're not the same quarterback, right? Obviously. So I'll tell you what, if that were to happen, I would be intrigued to watch both teams. Dak Prescott can do a lot with a bad team. We watched him do it with the Cowboys before all these receivers got there. Dak Prescott is a playmaking quarterback. He's not great or elite. He's really good. He's a level below Kyler Murray. He's really good. He's just not a guy. He's not Josh Allen. He's not going to win 14 games and get to a championship game. That's not who this kid is. I got to tell you, though, that intrigues the shit out of me. Your idea with Philadelphia is just so far off his fucking rocker, bro.
You have to remember too that so we were talking about Russell Wilson, right? And we think there's no way that Seattle's going to trade Russell Wilson. But if Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson are both unhappy and both teams are this is not a far
shot.
Why not?
No shot. Max Kellerman, no shot.
Seattle's management apparently is pissed off at Russell Wilson right now.
Yeah, and so is fucking Green Bay at Aaron Rodgers. You think Aaron Rodgers? You shut the fuck up. You're crazy.
Well, Aaron Rodgers has been doing this.
There's no chance. There's no chance Russell Wilson gets traded out of the Seahawks. Bill is upset about Brady, Rich. There's no doubt. Mr. Belichick is in his fucking.
Wentz is a Bill type of quarterback.
Wait a minute. I disagree with you, and I'll approach that in a moment. His cutoff sleeve fucking hoodies in the middle of the snow with his hood up, just fucking angry, walking around his house, pissed off, checking his fucking video cameras, like Bill Belichick does. He's mad.
Belichick keeps the AC at 25 in his house and wears that hoodie.
Here's the reason why you're wrong. You're wrong in the case study of this past season that Cam Newton got a contract from Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick would love to find a way to make I struggle so hard to say Carson Wentz is a mobile quarterback, a rolling quarterback, the center of his offense. He tried to do it with Cam Newton, but what everybody failed to realize, including you, in one of your worst takes of the year 2020.
That was one of them.
Cam Newton is ass cheeks. Cam Newton is cooked. Cam Newton sucks. Cam Newton, whoever signs Cam Newton this offseason, might as well just burn a fucking pile of money like Joker style, however much it was going to be. Cam Newton was garbage. So I believe that Bill Belichick is interested. But what I hear is most of my shit that I've compiled, Bill Belichick apparently has very strong interest in Derek Carr. If Las Vegas is legitimately willing to move on from him, from what I've read, it's Matt Ryan and it's Derek Carr. Matt Ryan via free agency, Derek Carr via trade. They're the two that have been linked to the Patriots more than anybody else.
Derek makes way more sense for what I think Bill wants than someone like Matt Ryan, because you got to remember, once Brady hit a certain age, regardless of how he was playing, Belichick was like, oh, he's too old. Let's get a younger guy. So then you're going to go get a fucking 38-year-old Matt Ryan. I don't think that makes much sense for Bill because he wants to start building the future of the offense. I think Derek Carr makes a lot more sense. There's going to be so much QB movement. I can't wait till the first piece falls because it's going to be a fucking domino effect, and we're going to have a lot of content, bud. We have to go on 3-4 times a week here.
I don't feel the same way you do, genuinely. I think we're going to have far fewer surprises than we really want, which is disappointing. Yeah, I think it's because of the level of expectation we have built for it. I believe it's going to be a letdown. Like it's kind of I liken it to this, right? If Daryl Morey goes out at the trade deadline and gets you Ersan Ilyasova and Marco Bellinelli, not necessarily literally those guys today, but those moves that happened a couple years ago that pushed the Sixers over the top, we're going to appreciate it. It's going to be necessary. It's going to be addressing a problem, but you're not going to go, oh, we're fucking in now. Now we just got to beat whoever makes it from the West. It's a good move, but it's underwhelming. I feel like this quarterback market is going to be underwhelming.
Think about this, though. Let's just concentrate on the NFC East for a second.
Hold that thought. This is interesting. I want to talk about this real fast. Rich brings up a very great point. If San Francisco is willing to give up the 3 to 5 first-round draft picks that it's rumored that it will cost to acquire one Deshaun Watson, I believe, and I'll say it right now today, hot take, you can call me out on it in 6 months if need be, San Francisco is the team to beat. If Deshaun Watson finds a way onto that team with that defense, if Deshaun Watson finds his way onto that team with that defense, they're the team to beat. So I won't be upset. I would love it. I will do it. No Bosa. I don't know that you get him without Bosa, bro. That's the problem. That's the issue I find.
Yeah, it's going to take San Fran also. I mean, if you can trade for Deshaun Watson, you do, but they win a lot of games with Garoppolo, regardless of the numbers that he puts up.
Jimmy Garoppolo's garbage.
I know, but they win games with them. They do.
I know. He's just a bad quarterback.
So let me ask you this. If Deshaun Watson is on that team when they were in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, do they win that game?
Probably. I mean they have much.
I think it's that much of a difference where they beat Kansas City that year.
I don't know. I don't know if I would go as strong to say they beat Kansas City. I will say this. It's far more competitive than it was, without a doubt. Without a doubt, it's a much.
It was competitive. It was competitive for 3.5 quarters.
Yeah, but 3.5 quarters isn't a full 60, and that's what Deshaun Watson would have given you. Jimmy Garoppolo is a bad quarterback.
All right, so you made a point. You don't think there's going to be as many QB moves as we think there are.
You did. I'm sorry. I don't know that I've said this literally out loud, so I will say it out loud. Carson Wentz is a garbage quarterback. Carson Wentz has the potential to be a fucking astounding quarterback. He has the athletic ability. He has the potential to get there. Given the right fucking soft-ass coach that lets him be a fucking diva a la Donovan McNabb. Because this is what this city gets in quarterbacks is prima donna, crybaby, overrated bitch quarterbacks. So yes, you told me and you were right. Carson Wentz sucks. Yes, anyway, Aaron, I don't believe it's going to be as fireworks as you're telling us.
This is the reason I'm asking. So if we just look at the NFC East, because I disagree with you. I think there's going to be a lot of different quarterbacks that start falling because of whatever domino effect that happens. So let's just look at the NFC East. Washington doesn't have a quarterback. Right. So they're going to go get a free agent quarterback. So there's going to be a new quarterback most likely in Washington. The Eagles, and here's another point. The Eagles, right? They trade Carson Wentz. Don't get a quarterback back. they have an early second-round pick. Someone like Kyle Trask from Florida State and Mac Jones might be available with that pick. Do they need to draft a QB early to back up Jalen Hurts?
No, the only way you draft a quarterback in this draft is Justin Fields falls to you at 6. That's it.
He's going to be there at 6. I don't think they're going to draft him.
If Justin Fields falls to 6 and you believe, like I believe, he's the guy, that's the only way you draft a quarterback. If that's not the direction you go, it must be Patrick Surtain or Jamar Chase at number 6, because I don't believe that the world exists where Devonta Smith falls there. Obviously, that's the nonsense, the easy, non-thinking, like you don't even need to think about it, instant, automatic pick if he's there. I don't think he will be. I don't think he's better than Jamar Chase, but we'll never, I promise you, Howie Roseman will never go away from the obvious receiver again. You have to, if you draft a quarterback, it is Justin Fields to remake this franchise, or all of the capital you acquire for Carson Wentz is to fill out the holes in this roster, and you're moving forward with Jalen Hurts.
Okay, so then we agree that the Eagles are going to have the same quarterback next year, but it's not going to be Carson. It's going to be Jalen Hurts. So do you think that –
I don't agree.
What?
I said earlier, I believe that right now on a daily basis, that group of decision makers, the scouts, Howie, Jeff Lurie, Nick Sirianni, all of them, I believe are in turmoil right now, figuring out what the fuck to do, because now it looks like Justin Fields is going to fall. And that's a decision to make, dude. You're moving on from your franchise quarterback. You didn't draft Jalen Hurts to be the franchise quarterback. You drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round because he was a ton of value at the slot and you took him in when he should have gone in the top 20. That doesn't mean you didn't make a good pick, but that's Ryan Tannehill is not a franchise quarterback. Ryan Tannehill is not a guy that you keep over a franchise-level quarterback at number 6 in the draft. I don't agree with you that it's a foregone conclusion that they're going in with Jalen Hurts. I think it's most likely, but I also can't say that it's not possible that Carson Wentz isn't on this fucking roster, man. If Howie Roseman bungles this shit, if Howie Roseman bungles this all the way up to the last minute and doesn't get an offer he likes, and Chicago and Indy pull a fucking trigger elsewhere, then what?
Yeah. Well, listen, you have to go up to Carson Wentz at some point and be like, hey, man, do you want to be here or do you want to be in Chicago?
He's already said he doesn't want to be here.
Well, he obviously doesn't want to be in Chicago either. He doesn't want to be in Chicago any more than he wants to be here. He would have been like, yeah, fucking trade me. I know he's trying to get you to the Colts, but at the end of the day, he's going to go to Chicago if he's going to go anywhere. I don't think the Colts are going to go up on that offer. Do you think Dak is going to be a Dallas Cowboy this coming season?
Yeah. I think what's going to happen is I think that Dak is going to sit down with Jerry Jones, and Dak is going to tell him that because of that injury, he's afraid he's not going to get a real contract. He doesn't want to go elsewhere. He already has camaraderie with this team. He wants to run it back and try to not get fucked up this year, but he's going to ask for a ton of money. How much is the franchise tag? Like 37?
Yeah, it's close to 40.
Yeah, I think he's going to ask. I think he's going to ask for a 1-year, $45 million, fully guaranteed contract. Come back, run the team, and if it's successful, he stays in Dallas. And if Jerry Jones won't do it, I don't know that Dak signs on the franchise tag just because he doesn't want to get hurt on the franchise tag.
I'm trying to figure out, if I'm Jerry Jones, why I'm not just – well, first of all, if I'm Dak and I just got injured like that and I know a second one is going to lower what I'm valued at in the following season when I'm a free agent, I'm taking $37.5 million if it's offered to me first and foremost. So we're talking about $2.5 million a year that I'm going to lose out on, but I'm going to secure my future. So I'm trying to understand what the conversation.
I think Dak. I think this is us seeing Dak knows he's healthy. Dak knows that he's not going to have a setback. Dak knows that whatever went wrong is strong again, and he knows what position he put himself in, and he's got 100% confidence in his ability. Everybody fucking forgets, dude. Before he went down with an injury, he was probably going to have a season like Joe Burrow had his senior year in college. Statistically, it was going to be monstrous. He was probably going to break yardage records. He was on pace to have an unbelievable season, and they've got a tremendous set of skill players in Dallas and a pretty good offensive line. Aged and older now, but still not the worst in football. I think Dak wants more money. He wants to capitalize now. And I think he'll take a 1-year deal if it's more money and it's 100% guaranteed. He doesn't want the franchise tag because he's leaving money on the table. I think he believes fully in his ability.
Why haven't they worked out an incentive-based contract? It's like, all right, we'll give you the $40 million if you win 1 playoff game this coming season. If you win 2 the next year, we'll give you 42. Like, why isn't there some type of incentive-based? If he wants to bet on himself, shouldn't there be an incentive-based contract that can go upwards of $40 million?
Listen, man, I don't disagree with you, but you're talking about a 26-year-old quarterback who just suffered his first real injury, who thinks he deserves the benefit of the doubt. I don't disagree with you based on history of what I've seen. I'm with you. I think that's the best way to do it. I mean, you sign a contract that builds in value over time as you provide more. That's the opposite, though, of how these contracts go. I mean, look at Alshon Jeffrey. Alshon Jeffrey not making a ton of money, won a Super Bowl here, and then got paid a shitload of money to do fuck all. Jason Peters. I mean, the list goes. Fletcher Cox is the only guy that got paid up to his talent or overpaid on this team. Everybody else didn't live up to the talent of their contract. That's how these contracts in sports work far too often than not. And that is what I think is at risk here. I think you have to consider everything that's in front of you. This is why I believe the draft is going to be so hard for the Eagles this year. I think that if Dak Prescott is out there, if Dak Prescott refuses to sign the franchise tender, says he'll sit out a year, and really pulls an Eli's not going to San Diego, right? If that happens, and Dallas called me on the phone and said, give me Carson Wentz and 2 first-round draft picks, I say to myself, would I take that trade? And in an instant, I say yes. So Dak Prescott is interesting, but every other shoe to fall is waiting for the first shoe ahead of it. Like, that's why I keep saying Deshaun Watson is setting the market. Once Deshaun Watson goes, we'll know what this new tier of quarterbacks is that we have. Matt Stafford's an anomaly. Matt Stafford's an older veteran guy, played with a shitty – Matt Stafford's Carson Palmer, right? We have one Carson Palmer every 10 or 15 years. Matt Stafford is this new Carson Palmer. That's what he is. There's no other Carson Palmers in the league. It ain't Matt Ryan. You don't have another guy that's in comparison. Go to a team that is now built ready. Hopefully this quarterback takes us over the hump. The rest of the market for quarterbacks doesn't know up from down or left from right. It's all uncertain, especially because now you start to hear names like Mac Jones in some of these mock drafts, bro, at 4 or 5 overall, which doesn't make any sense. Who the fuck is trading up into the top 10 of the first round to get a quarterback? Should be able to get at the back end of the first round. But nobody knows what's going to happen with these quarterbacks because in this offseason, the first and second overall draft pick of the year Carson came out, himself and Jared Goff will both have been moved. That's quick turnaround time, bud. That's instantaneous.
With big moves with huge contracts, both with huge contracts that they didn't play up to. J.J. Watt has been released in the last 48 hours by the Houston Texans, and it's rumored Pittsburgh's out. I know everybody's talking about he's going to play with his brothers. They don't really have room as far as contracts go. So the 2 spots that he's been rumored to go, one is, and probably the best fit, is the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers have, as we've talked about throughout the seasons, in big games, they seem to have issues competing on the offensive and defensive line. They get bullied by the other teams.
Clay Matthews?
What's that?
You think he's the new Clay Matthews?
Clay Matthews played outside linebacker, but J.J. Watt is
– That's basically
kind
what J.J. Watt is, bro. He's an absolute end. He's a pass rusher.
Yeah, he's not a side-to-side. If Clay Matthews was side-to-side tackle guy, J.J. Watt's to pin the ears back and go get the sack guy. He demands a double team even at his age. He's come off injuries and always demanded a double team. It hasn't really mattered. They draw a lot of attention. If he goes to a team like the Packers and they can shore up like 1 or 2 other positions in free agency or the draft, does that put them over the hump in the NFC, or are they still just missing something? Are they missing some coaching? Are they missing, what is it that went wrong with the Packers in the playoffs? And what would J.J. Watt do?
Matt LaFleur's a bad coach. It's the same reason why Aaron Rodgers only won 1 with fucking the idiot that just got fired from Dallas. They find bad coaches. They find stupid, dumb motherfucking coaches. But this is the first time, and this is why I know you and Jeff all year have been fucking giving this dude fucking verbal blowjobs since fucking week 6. I know Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. I know stat lines were incredible this year. But you know what MVPs do? MVPs run the ball into the end zone when you're 4 yards away, when you have a wide open fucking field. That's what an MVP does. You know who does that? Tom fucking Brady can do that. And Aaron Rodgers took a gigantic step backwards to me. His age showed, and Jordan Love is affecting him. Whether he wants it to or not, Jordan Love is affecting him. What's that?
Jordan Love didn't even suit up all year.
No. The idea of Jordan Love.
He had his best season in a decade. I don't know if it really affected him.
Jalen, of course it affected him. Why do you think he had his best season in a decade? Because he put on every game. It was personal to him every single game. And when the pressure mounted to its peak, to its climax, and was ready to, this was it. This is all you had to accomplish. What did Aaron Rodgers do? He crumbled. You know who he crumbled like? His predecessor, Brett Favre. The only other player in NFL history to have 3 MVPs, but only 1 Super Bowl. Only 2 players in history. And why? Because the Green Bay Packers are a team that is riddled with problems that none of us know about. The front office has got to be bad. Maybe it's ownership. Who knows? There's some fucking problems. So to answer your first question, does J.J. Watt take this team over the top of the NFC? Not even fucking close. If J.J. Watt was smart and was chasing a chip, which it seems like he is, J.J. Watt would find a way to work out a vet minimum with Tampa Bay and just go eat every fucking Sunday and pick up a chip, because that would guarantee it.
He's not going to do that because he still wants to get paid. The Cleveland Browns have cap room.
That's it right there. That's it right there. They babied Rodgers because this is the same thing Frank Reich did with Carson Wentz. They coddled his little feelings and they spoke to him like a little baby, and they made sure
you and Rich gotta stop talking off air.
Bro, I haven't talked to Rich in weeks, maybe months, Rich. It might be possible. We just agree. You remember this from working together. We just agree on right things, like Tua is a trash quarterback. We agree on the core principles.
The core principles. If the other team was
Cleveland Browns, you just brought up.
Cleveland Browns.
I think Cleveland improves tremendously with that.
Opposite Myles Garrett. That is
impressive. It's impressive. Yeah. But here's the real question, bro. Is Baker all right? You gotta hear me out here, okay? Is Tua next Steve Young? Look, maybe he does agree with you. See, we don't talk. Tua is trash. Anyway, Baker Mayfield. Does Baker become that breakout? I could speak for you and say we agree. Baker had a breakout season last year, right? He became a leader, was a true franchise leading quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Does Baker become, because this is where he's at, as far as I can see. Does Baker become who do I want to use? Does Baker become the Phillip Rivers who, after LaDainian Tomlinson went, had to refigure it out year and then kind of reemerged as one of those really good quarterbacks? Does he come out and stay at this level next season? Or does Baker fall apart like Kirk Cousins? What are we going to see out of Baker Mayfield?
The whole offense is returning. So the problem with the Browns this year wasn't ever really what they were doing on offense, especially with how comfortable he got once Odell left. And I think Odell's going to end up getting traded in the offseason. It's going to be a surprise trade, and they're not going to get much back.
The Sixers, the Eagles, 6th round draft pick. Bring him in. Bring in anybody that knows how to catch a football. I don't give a fuck what their baggage is. We'll take Antonio Brown with his best friend James Harden to the strip club together. Just get me receivers.
Well, I'll take both of them. So they are not going to have
Terrell Owens out of retirement right now.
they're not going to change much of what they do on offense. And in their first year with Stefanski, they did a phenomenal job. The problem this year was inconsistent defense. They had some COVID issues a couple games. So if you have two guys,
your opinion, Stefanski, coach of the year?
No, just because it's
Who
the
do you put
Browns.
ahead
So
of
you
him?
have McDermott was
I
a
was
great
going to
coach
say Buffalo.
this year.
I thought Buffalo was
Yeah.
the only team that improved enough to compete with what Stefanski did. They're the 1A and 1B for me this year.
Nobody thought that Josh Allen was going to do what he did this year, and nobody thought Buffalo was going to win 14 games. They thought they might win the division at 10 or 11, but or 13 games.
Wait a minute. I don't remember. I just need to see me and Bob hang out sometimes, and I have a memory problem. I need my buddy Aaron to help me. I recall a conversation. I can't remember exactly.
Miami.
Who did you pick to win that division?
Miami. They lost in the last week.
Miami because Tua wasn't good enough to move the ball down the field, which apparently is normal to happen to franchise quarterbacks. That you have a 20-year journeyman come in to win a football game for you on a playoff hunt. But who said that Buffalo would win?
I'll tell you what, bud. When I went back and listened to the episode, where we picked our division winners, neither of us can brag about what happened this past season. So the Eagles are all that matter in that conversation. Because at the very beginning, dog, when I was sitting in the fucking parking lot on Anchor on my fucking phone, in the way beginning, I think both of us were on record saying like 10 or 11 wins for the Eagles. So we fucked up this year from the get-go, but we figured it all out. Stefanski is coach of the year. See, look, me and Rich agree again. There is some logic in his brain. Now, hold on one second, Aaron. I want to go back to something else he said. When he leaves Miami like Young left Tampa years from now, I got a question for Rich, and I want him to comment. I want to ask you. If the rumor is true that it's Tua, the 3rd overall pick for Deshaun Watson, is Tua Steve Young in Houston? I don't think so. I don't think they're going to need to give up way more than that. You can't just. I mean, they're going to need Tua, the 3rd pick, and 4 more first-round picks. It's not just going to be.
Say Miami gives it. We're creating hypothetical. Miami.
Nobody's going to be good in Houston. Nobody.
So Tua is not Steve Young then, because Steve Young would have been good in Houston. Steve Young would have been good anywhere. He was a great quarterback.
He had one of the best coaches ever.
Come on, Skip. How, Sway? Come on, Skip. Steve Young is one of the best quarterbacks ever. Yeah,
you're correct. And he also had one of the best coaches ever.
See, Richie, I think Miami gives that up, don't you? 3 first-round draft picks, counting the 3rd overall this year. And Tua? Hell yeah, you give that shit up for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I mean we're talking about Bill Walsh here, so let's not compare like Romeo Crennel, whoever the fuck they hire, to what Steve Young.
My God, it's going to be Eric Bieniemy. It's going to be Eric Bieniemy by all accounts. And again, if it is,
Houston already hired a coach. Houston already hired a coach.
Oh, that's right.
They hired a fucking nobody 3 weeks ago.
Kind of like the Eagles did with Nick Sirianni, right?
Worse.
He said worse. There's no worse. Did you hear that guy talk? There's no worse.
It was Dave Culley.
Whoever the fuck that guy is.
Tell me who Dave Culley is.
Sounds like an asshole. I have no fucking idea.
Okay. Closing time. So the Sixers right now, just to pivot back a little bit. The Sixers right now.
Rich, is that because the Houston Texans are a special team? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So listen to this. Sixers, Nets, Bucks, Celtics, Pacers. I'm pretty sure that as soon as the Nets landed James Harden, I said this is about what the East would be, but I had the Sixers lower at about the 3 or 4. I do think at some point in the next couple weeks, the Bucks and the Nets will continue to creep up. And if the Sixers continue to lose a little bit, that's what it's going to look like, bud. What do you think is going to happen over the next couple weeks?
The Sixers win the East this year. Sixers are the number 1 seed in the East this year.
We'll see what happens.
So you gave me this bravado I walk around with for Daryl Morey. This is your fucking fault. So understand, the only reason I'm so confident is because of your arguments. So I love Daryl. I believe based on history that Daryl Morey is going to make a couple of the right moves that are going to create an extra scoring punch off the bench. And if that were to happen, if the ideal outcome comes, which by your account should, because of what you've told me, if the right things happen, the Sixers will be the number 1 seed in the East, and in my opinion, be the representatives of the Eastern Conference in the NBA.
They very badly need another hot shooter off either in the starting lineup or off the bench that can D up on the perimeter, because they just don't have someone who can do both aside from Ben Simmons. Danny Green's not there anymore. Seth Curry gets torched by anyone he's guarding. So when Seth Curry is not shooting 50% from 3 and giving you 15 points a game, he's almost worthless because he can't do anything on the defensive end. So they need to shore up that position. Matisse comes in there.
I got to mention something real quick based on what Rich just said, that they're going to finish 4th because they're tired and it's early. So I have a quick question for you before we get done. If you were to give a scale of 1 to 10 on basketball IQ for coaches, right? 1 being the dumbest guy, Jason Kidd, and 10 being the smartest guy, right? Pop, right? What number would you give Doc Rivers?
7.
7? So I think he's like an 8 to an 8.5, but we both agree higher end of the IQ spectrum. He's been around a long time. He's seen a lot of shit.
Yeah.
I think that Joel Embiid's rest games and the tired games are all a play to not have to unfold everything until we get into the ramp up to the playoffs this year. It's a shortened season. Doc is a smart fucking coach, and I genuinely believe that he is hiding what this team could be because there's things yet to come. He knows Daryl Morey is going to make moves, and we're waiting for everything to come together.
So I would agree with you. And I do think they're going to give him some games to rest, and they should give him some games to rest. He's obviously the most important piece on the Sixers. That being said, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, it's extremely important for the 76ers to get the 1 or 2 seed. And if you're giving up games because Embiid can't be in there, that is a big problem because there's teams. I know they can match up with anybody in the East, but they need the 1 or 2 seed. I'm not confident in a Sixers team that goes into the playoffs this year as the 3 or 4 seed. Finish the season or his career?
The season. Yes, he finishes the season as a Sixer. And unless you have some type of fucking cock wild crazy shit where like Damian Lillard becomes available, something nuts would have to pry Ben Simmons away now. Ben Simmons will finish as a 76er. What we've learned in the games that he's missed is even when Joel Embiid's on the floor, this team's defensive identity runs through Ben Simmons. Now, it runs best with Joel Embiid, and you can't have a fucking liability like Seth Curry, Danny Green, and Mike Scott. They just can't.
Embiid makes up for all their mistakes.
Correct. Embiid is, in my opinion, the best natural defender in the NBA right now. Joel Embiid just has the best anticipation around the hole. He's one of the best players in the NBA. I really hope people start realizing this because he's not going to be this good for that long. You and I are pretty honest about how careers go. I mean, I know a lot of people get touchy on this subject when you talk about how long guys can play. This man is 7 foot 2 inches tall, and he's legitimately 285 pounds. What are you pointing at?
3 to 4 years. If he plays like this, he can stay.
Max.
Yeah.
So if you're taking this for granted right now, stop and enjoy what anybody who's upset they didn't get to see Shaq play with Kobe. I watched Shaq play with Kobe as a kid. It was the most exciting fucking basketball of my lifetime. Watch what Joel Embiid does on a floor, and it's what my dad used to tell me about Akeem Olajuwon. It's unbelievable to watch. It's like watching Tim Duncan again at 26 years old. But this shit does not last forever. Most people aren't Tim Duncan. Just enjoy it while it's here. It is, Richie says it, it's our Shaq. Legitimately, this is the most dominant a guy's been since.
If Shaq had a shot, imagine Shaq with a shot.
Holy fucking shit. And imagine Joel Embiid if he could carry 40 pounds more weight on him. If Joe could play 320 like Shaq did, My fucking Lord.
They have different strengths. The difference is Shaq ended up getting 4 rings and Embiid has yet to get 1, and Shaq started collecting them around this time. So we'll see what happens this year. We'll be back with you guys Sunday, maybe a little bit sooner if any QB news breaks. I'm tired of the Carson Wentz stuff, so I hope it does. Any closing thoughts, Just?
Yeah, fuck Carson Wentz. This is my new hashtag, fuck Carson Wentz. This our sister podcast, The Ever Evolving Truth. Jeff has fuck Mike Pence, fuck Carson Wentz, fuck him.
Once you guys have the baby, you should change your profile picture to a picture of Carson Wentz in another uniform.
So fuck Carson Wentz. Closing thought A. Closing thought B. The 76ers are going to be the first seed in the East. I still believe it. I think they're going to be the best team in the East this year. It's Aaron's fault. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back a couple of weeks. Listen to when we got Daryl Morey, when Daryl Morey signed with the Sixers. Aaron put on basically the greatest defense of anybody in the history of time and flipped me in literally 24 hours of not being so excited at all to being like, holy fucking shit, we might got a guy here now.
The moves he's made so far have been enough so far, and he needs to keep making them at this point after seeing the way.
I've got no reason to believe that he won't because of what I've seen so far.
Smart
so
guy.
The Sixers are a great team. Don't get too upset about it. Phillies are coming back, pitchers and catchers. I'm excited to get into some baseball. We got to do one of these episodes. We'll probably pair up a Sunday soon because football season's over now. We got to start talking about the Phillies, dude. I'm excited about some of the things they've done. Dave Dombrowski's, just like Daryl Morey, changed the face of that franchise in a couple of weeks since he's been hired here. I'm excited to get into that stuff, dude.
Big Facts coming back on Sunday. Follow our Big Facts page on Facebook. Follow us on Spotify. Follow us on YouTube and follow our personal pages. We'll be back Sunday at 10, 11 a.m. We'll let you guys know when. We'll post it online, and we'll see you then.
Peace, bro.